Hey, good morning, Mrs. Amir Zaza. Thank you for waiting patiently. It looks like you just did that a second ago, so you didn't have to wait too long once you said that. Oh my goodness. Wow, wow, wow. How are you guys doing today? How are you, Mrs. Amir Zaza? I know you have a little baby, like 3 months old. Is this your first? I forget if I asked you that already. The first one is just the most mind-blowing, that's all. But they are all mind-blowing, aren't they? All right, so let's get into it. Everything I say is simply my opinion, purely for the sake of conversation, hoping to open up a discussion and to learn something. Lifelong learner, I hope I am, and I think that's what many of us want to be. Um, It's purely for the sake of education, and it's made specifically for YouTube. So that does cover YouTube as an entertainment platform. So, hello, Kale. Good morning. Thanks for being here. So, first thing I want to mention is that Kale downloaded the entire affidavit and emailed it to me, and that I have the link to it on my community tab. So anybody who would like it emailed to them, just shoot me an email at justicea2tooz at gmail.com. I'd be happy to just forward it to you. I know a lot of channels have been reading it out loud, and so I'm not going to do that, I don't think, at least not at this point in time. But I just wanted to put it where people could peruse it at their own leisure if they felt like it. It is packed full of information. So, first and foremost, I want to remember that this criminal defendant is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. It's not that I'm trying to protect him or favor him in any way, shape, or form. It's just that he's a criminal defendant. And if he did do it, if he is guilty, he's an absolute POS who doesn't even deserve a name, in my humble opinion. Subject 1, does this mean subject 2 is still out there? I don't know, Lisa. I don't know. There's so many questions. I feel like, when you get a packet of information like that, you hope that it's going to answer a lot of questions, which it usually does. It usually does. In this case, I feel like it definitely did. And at the same time, it spurs new questions. So, that old adage, more questions than answers kind of thing. I don't know. A few things I want to mention before I forget. You guys know that it's a full moon tonight. I saw the full moon yesterday morning and it was gorgeous, but obviously it wasn't quite a full moon because it's tonight, I think 6 p.m. East Coast time in the States. Um, and it's the first full moon of the new year. It is the full moon of, what do they call it? Like deep winter? Yes, I think deep winter. So Kale DePenna says not necessarily. Why did other roomies sleep? It's a question that I think that's probably the most pressing, and that was probably the most mind-boggling part of the affidavit, in my opinion. Miss Amir says we are doing fine. Baba just woke up now from a nap. We're both with you. He's 4 months and 2 weeks old. How did that happen? My second after 17 years. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Well, hopefully the 17-year-old is thrilled and able to help. There's nothing like having a second pair of hands around, or third pair of hands, fourth pair of hands. Hey, Pixie Knickers, good morning. So, yes, I want to be so careful with the roommate that allegedly saw the criminal defendant, because like a lot of stations, a lot of channels have been speaking to, and I spoke to it yesterday, you never know how you're going to react in a crisis situation. You would hope to be cool, calm, and collected, and sometimes we are, and sometimes we're not. Um, It's that post-traumatic stress disorder shock that is so mystical and dangerous, and we just don't know. We just don't know. I think protecting the victims is the most important thing to do right now because we don't have any knowledge that that victim is anything but a victim. There's a lot of questions. There may be answers, there may not be. Um, I know, why didn't she call 911? I know, there's a lot of questions. Mind-boggling, yes, but we have to keep a cool head about it. We do not know if they had access to communicate, and we do not know if shock set in either. So I started to tell you guys yesterday, let me take a drink real quick. And now I go down the wrong pipe, so it's going to be another second. I started to talk about the one time I saw post traumatic stress disorder shell shock with my own eyes. It was when I worked in a psychiatric facility. And I wanted to share a little bit with you because the way PTSD and especially PTSD shock is so mysterious and different for each person. So this patient had been assaulted. She'd been SA'd and she blocked it out. And she continued about her day, the day that it happened, and she continued about her life for roughly a week. And then she went into complete shock. And her she was a teenager. Her parents brought her in to an ER and she got transferred to the psychiatric facility and she didn't know what had happened. She had no idea. That was the story. What I just told you basically that um you know, it took a while in her psychiatric hospitalization. It took probably a week for everybody to piece together the situation. When I first saw her, she had just came into the doors of the facility, and she was just like any kind of shock that you would think if you've seen someone in shock before. They're white as a ghost. They're like in a cold sweat. They're confused. They are pretty immobilized. It is like nothing I'd ever seen in my life. And it took me a while to understand it. I mean, I was in shock looking at her and thinking, what is this? I had never seen a person like that. And fortunately, I've never seen a person in that state since. Um, and yeah, why did she call her friends at 11 a.m. before, please? It's so hard to say, the detached. So when a person like this teenager that I'm speaking of, when a person is in PTSD and shock, they completely block out what happened. So they don't remember and they might not ever remember. Kind of like a blackout if you've ever been so drunk that you've blacked out. That's the same type of thing. So, in that situation, it was, very, very challenging to help this person and to help her piece it together, and it's just mind-boggling. So, I don't wanna say too much more about that, I don't wanna go off on that tangent. What I'm trying to communicate is that post-traumatic stress disorder shock is going to be unique for each person. And hopefully, each of us will never have to go through it. Hopefully, we will not even have to witness somebody going through it because it's the worst. It's absolutely the worst. Um, and late but here, Susan Dodge. Thanks. Kale says, do we know which one of them called friends? It's a really good question. It's a really good question. So, you know, I had found out in my profession, in my experience as a professional, that I do very well in a crisis stress situation. I kind of go into a shock and things slow down like slow motion. And I kind of have like blank slate kind of brain. And I just can only think of exactly what needs to be done right now with this second and the next second. And I go about it very methodically and organized. And that's really the best thing you can do for the most part. I'm fortunate that I'm married to somebody who is even more cool, calm, and collected and organized in a crisis. So, when something happens to one of our pets or something like that, like over the holiday weekend, um, he's rock solid. I am I kind of appear like I'm rock solid, whereas inside I'm kind of a mess. But I think that we're just all different, and it's going to be different for each situation too, and just depending on the day and so many variables. You just can't second guess. You really can't. Um, and let's see what Miss Amir Zaza says. There is a YouTuber you called law enforcement and informed them that the Idaho University internet connections were down that night till a certain time. Maybe it was deliberately down. So I actually fortunately caught that. That was, I believe it was a nerdy addict who had been looking at the server and saw that there were two timestamps where it was marked on the history of the server. One was 11:30-ish p.m. on November 12th, and the next one wasn't until about 6:30 in the morning on November 13th. And at 11:30 p.m., everything was running fine when the server was checked on its history. And then at 6 a.m. or 6:30-ish a.m. on the 13th, it was down. And Nerdy Addict communicated that information to the authorities, as the nerd addict would. And he knows a lot about this sort of thing. And he said that for all he knew, it was routine maintenance. And there's no way in his knowledge to determine how long it had been not running for. So anytime between 11 the night before and 6:30 in the morning is when it could have gone down. One of the most significant pieces of information that struck me from the whole affidavit is simply the DoorDash delivery for Xana at 4 a.m. And something about her being on TikTok at 4:12. Then the time frame that the grisly crimes were committed in is from 4 to 4:25. Yesterday I said 4 to 4:20, but more specifically from 4 to 4:25. So let's see. Yeah, a cut line or done through computer. Right. I don't know if you can cut a line these days. I mean, who has a landline? Nobody I know. I mean, most people I know kept their landlines for a long time, had cell phones and landlines. I honestly don't think I know any. No, I do. I know one person who still has her landline, but that landline rings straight to her cell phone too. Um, right, Lisa, we can't get food delivery that early in Ohio, and I live in Ohio, and I was thinking the same thing. But apparently, in a college town like Moscow, Idaho, you can. Remember that half of the population in Moscow is the college students, and we all know college students stay up a lot, especially on the weekends, and want food in the middle of the night, especially on the weekends. Absolutely. So that's going to be a very good, stable income for people that are wanting work and wanting to make money. Just like the Grub Truck or the Grub Hub, and with their Twitter live feed. I mean, thank goodness they have that, right? If it was a routine maintenance, that was a good time to plan to go or think you can undetected for this monstrous attack. Wow, Kale, I hadn't even thought about that. Yeah, if the criminal defendant knew that. So we know that the criminal defendant was studying. Where did I put that? Um, this is mind-boggling. You guys probably heard this part. He, in his master's degree, was in psychology and forensics in the cloud. So you would think that those types of things would have been contemplated. Also, he had applied for an internship with the Pullman Police Department in the fall, so not too far from the time that he allegedly may have committed these crimes. Just absolutely mind-boggling. Let's leave our DNA on that like button on our way. Injustice Warriors. Thank you, Mrs. Amir Zaza. Please, if you hit the like button earlier in the stream, it's better for the algorithm and getting it out to people that would like to be in the stream who haven't gotten an alert or like that. So please, if you feel like it and you would be so kind, it's a good favor for me and any content creator to hit that like button. It's so easy to forget. And then share and subscribe if you haven't already and you feel inclined to do so. So thanks for covering that. So I want to talk about the Kylie Rodney case too, but let me finish a few more notes here and looking at your comments with the horrible tragedy in Idaho. Absolutely horrible tragedy. Good morning, Cesafar. It's just so sad. I said something in my afternoon live stream yesterday that if it were my child, I would certainly need a psychiatric hospitalization, listening to all this information. And I would think that would kind of go for anyone. I want to reiterate to pray for these families. Unimaginable, unthinkable what they've had to suffer through and will continue to suffer through. Also, on a happy note, I gotta write that guy's name down. Damar Harris? No, Damar Hamlin, I think. The football safety from the Buffalo Bills. I think it's Damar Hamlin. I'm so bad with names. He is doing a lot better. You guys have probably heard if you saw that in the news. I knew University of Cincinnati Hospital could do it if anybody could. So hit the like button and slay a troll. That's cute. Yes, Hamlin. He's doing great. I mean, it's seriously a miracle. And I seriously have faith that the crowdsourcing of prayer is that powerful. It did not look good, being that it took 10 minutes to restart his heart on the football field. He's still intubated, but he actually wrote a note. You guys know what he said in his note, so he's communicating. First thing he writes down is, "Did we win?" Oh my goodness, like that is pretty cute, pretty cute. But the fact that he was needing less oxygen yesterday morning got me really hopeful. And so now it's really looking like a miracle. It really is. So that's exciting. Super exciting. I mean, the man is only 24 years old. And I just so let's get back onto Idaho. One sec. It's just nice to throw some good news in there, isn't it? We don't get that a lot. So I was curious if anybody in the chat knows what item was stolen. So the criminal defendant is accused of burglary, taking something from the house, a memento or souvenir, so to speak. And we know that he modeled himself after other serial killers. BTK, I understand, had burglarized or stolen a watch, the father's watch from his first murder. So I had heard one place, and I can't remember where, that's what this criminal defendant took as well, like some sort of clock or something, but I'm not 100% sure. And I was just curious if anybody knew anything about that. Um, let's see. I think that's about all on this. No, I wanted to also mention about the other traffic stops that the criminal defendant was involved in that were mentioned, I believe, in that affidavit, um, from both Pullman and from like August in Moscow. So those are more body cams that are written about in the affidavit that perhaps we'll be able to see. We can make public records requests from Pullman Police Department, from Moscow Police Department, and there might be little tidbits of information in there, just like there pretty much always are, right? Um, Lisa says, think something bad I think he took. Right. I know that was what I had thought early on too, like something extremely personal that I just don't even want to say anything more than that. So my coffee cup is really cute. It has butterflies on it and it says, be the change. Hello, John Vaccaro. You can be charged with burglary for illegally entering a dwelling with intent to commit a crime. It doesn't necessarily mean that any property was actually stolen. Correct. However, I had heard at some point that he took an item that was kind of a match to what BTK took from his first uh, crazy ass homicide. Urgh, these people is so disgusting. So, there was also a trip that he took to Colorado. I want to say in mid-December that was mentioned in the affidavit that I haven't gleaned anything else about that trip to Colorado, like what that was for. If anybody knows anything about that. The names that he used for a couple of accounts on social media that are almost 100% him, the criminal defendant, Papa Roger and Inside Looking. And in both of those profile pictures, he used his own face. One of them, the Papa Roger, I think he kind of made himself look like a Nazi with like a art filter. I'm not sure that that is a Nazi. It's some type of military for sure. And then the Inside Looking is also like an art filter, and it's just like the eyeball peeping through, and you can just see the distinctiveness of the bump in his nose and that bushy eyebrow. I think the eyebrow's in there. Anyway, part of the eye is. But yeah, what a weird detail for somebody to be able to talk about the bushy eyebrows in the description, with the roommate that saw him, that he walked right by her. My question is, was the light on? I don't think it says anything in the affidavit, not that I caught, and I've looked at it many times and listened to it being read. Um, was there a light on? I mean, obviously there was some type of light if she could see that he had a mask on and see the eyebrow, see that he had bushy eyebrows. Such detail. But again, with shock, you can sometimes have a very clear image of one thing and block the rest of it out. So I just don't think it's appropriate to accuse this alleged victim of anything but being a victim. And it's my understanding that she's like in protective custody because of so many people with so many questions. So that's got to be really scary. Um, okay, Mrs. Amir Zaza says, I heard about that alleged pink item. Um, being like a body part or being like a pink watch or a pink clock. I don't know if you can answer that. I was thinking it was someone she knew and didn't think anything about it. And, it could be that she thought it was somebody's friend, somebody's guest. They live in a house with 5 roommates, and they have a lot of people coming and going. It was a party house. Oh, Lisa, I see what you said. Yikes. Yikes. I just don't even want to say it out loud. Um, but not a watch. I'll just say that. Okay. So, so yeah, I just wanted to make sure to direct anybody who wants to re-look at something on the affidavit that it's on the community page. So it's there if you want it. It's just the link. And what did I use for a profile picture? Probably I think it's the same one as the thumbnail that I used for this. So I already put my thumbnails. I usually don't put the thumbnails on until after I just get going with my lives. But this morning I was doing things differently, trying to get more information into my system before I got started. So everything was fresh and just making sure that I didn't miss anything that I didn't want to miss. Um, yeah. So the poor impulse control, the compulsivity of somebody like this criminal defendant, allegedly, you got to think about your own impulses and your own ability to control your impulses. Like, say, I don't know, whatever it is that you're drawn to doing. Like for me, honestly, I love to go thrifting. I love to go to Goodwill, or better yet, some little mom and pop thrift shop. So it's really hard for me to not do that. I have a compulsion to want to do that. And there are times where I have poor impulse control. If I have the time, I will do it. I'll admit it, sometimes daily, like a junkie. But I find the coolest stuff. Even my kids, who it drives them crazy, they're just like, Mom's got the coolest stuff. So, being able to control that and not do it for long periods of time is something that I'm able to do. But there are times where I'll be like, oh my goodness, I've been doing that every day. It's a slippery slope. And most of us who have that habit and delight in thrifting know that you need to be routinely doing it in order to find the coolest stuff. So that, not to sound ridiculous and goofy, but that type of compulsivity and poor impulse control is what serial killers report, that they can't manage to keep themselves from doing it. If they could, they would, because they don't want to get caught. So, it's just a mind boggling pathology, right? And this guy, it seems to me, what strikes me with all this information is that he was basically like a rabid dog, and he was so out of control. He was kind of like where Ted Bundy was at the end of his crime career. Um, that Ted Bundy was able to control it pretty well and be very deliberate. This guy, it sounds to me, thought that he could do that, and he couldn't. He was just completely out of control. And that's what it feels like to me we're looking at. Let me read a couple of these. In that Reddit post, he said the perp took Kaylee's pink underwear. Oh, see, thank you for sharing that. And I am very relieved that it's an inanimate object. And I purposely didn't look at all of the stuff online. So, just not even knowing if it really was pertinent or not. Um, yeah. So, Lisa, I agree with what you said. Also heard about that too. So creepy, straight demonic. Maybe she knew him and told her, I'm here to help, go back to bed. Compulsion to check true crime channels daily. Block Ella. Yeah, you nailed it. Slippery slope to consider who. Let's see, what was it that Kale said? Slippery slope to consider who was thinking what, or who knew, or who, just saying. Yeah, exactly. Um, but that is a real one of the spookiest quotes from the affidavit that I have questions about too is the voice that Dylan reports that she heard that said, "It's okay, I'm here to help," or something to that effect. Really, really creepy. Um, all right. So, is it okay to shift gears right now and move on to the Kylie Rodney case because there's some hopeful traction happening there. So, I'm going to go ahead and switch gears. And anybody who keeps up with Kevin Neese, he dropped a new one yesterday. It was part two of the Kylie Rodney, and he spoke more specifically to some of the information that he had wanted to share that he didn't feel like he could share safely in part one without compromising the investigation. So he must have gotten some information that it was okay to share this. Oh, what happened to Kevin Neese's videos? What? Blackella? Are they gone now? What? I haven't checked today. So I saw part two yesterday, and he spoke specifically to the black box from Kaylee's car from I'm sorry, Ms. Kylie Rodney's CRV. They were gone yesterday afternoon. Oh my goodness. Well, it could be that he who knows? I'm thinking it could be that he was asked to take them down to preserve the integrity of the investigation, or that he just had a change of mind on his own. Temporarily, a third video, then they disappeared. Oh, I missed that third one. Oh no. Um, so the black box on Ms. Kylie Rodney's Honda CRV shows that her car was at the Prosser Lake and actually Boca on August 6th. And then her car went to the lodge and stayed overnight at the lodge that her granddad owns, that her family resided at. And then the car was at a reefer truck. And Casey from Living Lake Time talked about that. And it's not the reefer madness kind of truck, it's a refrigeration Mack truck. So, oh, he talks about it in a community post. Good, Susan. Thank you for sharing that. We'll look at that. He wants to get some facts straight about the black box info. His community page says some info could possibly be wrong. Okay, very good to know. Thank you for filling me in on that right away. Hello, Felicia Bennett. Great to see you too. And thanks, you guys. Yeah. So anyway, so now who knows if this is accurate? Um, the Living Lake Time videos that he put out yesterday are probably in reaction to Kevin Neese's. So I don't know. Um, but what I had wanted to say about it earlier, before getting all that information just now, is that Crime Watch with Kenny. So crime is spelled with a K. It's a newer channel. I think Kenny is from the UK. He's an elderly gentleman. He is often a guest on panels. I want to say on Zav Girl and a few others. He's really sharp. Uh, did I say it right? Crime Watch with Kenny, I believe. So crime is with a K, Kenny's with a K. And he just started his channel a couple of months ago, maybe November, and he's been trying to grow his channel. But that was he was the first person I heard that from, about the refrigeration Mack truck that the car was being stored in. That was way back, maybe October, I think, that he said that on a Zav Girl panel. And there's been some indication since then. And then I thought that this was confirmation that was accurate, but who knows? Um, so good morning, Sherry. Um, so yeah, mm, and I wanted to make a public apology to another newer channel, At the Scene with Haley V. A lovely, lovely channel. She's British and she's got a smaller channel, and she was in my chat yesterday, and I was like, oh, nice to meet you. And I just feel so embarrassed that I said that when I was in a panel with her in What's the Obsession, and allegedly had even pointed out to me when I was mentioning on a live who was in the panel, and he remembered that was the one that I couldn't remember the name of. I am so terrible with names. So let me just apologize profusely for when I forget names or when I mess them up. So that's one of my biggest criticisms of myself that I try really hard to work on. And I just got to say that, I feel like I kind of give myself a gold star every time I get it right. So I thought I was doing so much better, and I am making great progress. I used to be even worse, but getting back to the teaching, I mentioned yesterday about teaching some graduate coursework in Seattle a long time ago, like 25 years ago. Um, just a couple of years after I got my master's degree, and how much I loved it, but how challenging it was. The exchange of disseminating information, the back and forth that I felt like I was getting as a young teacher, as a young professor, I felt like I was learning so much from each of my students. And I've also been a substitute teacher in more recent years, like I think it was like 7 years ago at local schools. And I felt like it then too. I felt like I learned from each and every student. And I know as a student that I have heard professors and teachers speak like that, speak to that. And that to me is just thrilling to be like a life learner and to not expect that I'm the one disseminating information here. I mean, hopefully, because I have this channel, but that I'm gathering information too. And I just appreciate that so much. I think that's one of the things that I love the most about the chat is you guys give me so much new and fresh information that I wouldn't have otherwise. Like right now, just knowing to go back to Kevin Neese's channel and look at the community tab. And that darn it, I missed number 3. Grr, anyway, hey Laura Daddy, just stop by. Is everyone true that have closed the Kylie Rodney case? Is it true that, I haven't checked on that yet, Alistair Grant. That's a really good question. Felicia Bennett says, is it true that the Hobart Mills area is considered an affluent area or homes in the area? I think the Hobart Mills is where the refrigeration truck was. And it's my idea, but you guys can tell me what you know, that the affluent area is different than the Hobart Mills area, that the Hobart Mills area is like an industrial area, but I don't know. I don't know the name of that community that has always been reported that there was some surveillance tape with Kylie on it at the entrance of the um, guarded community that's outside of Reno or in Reno. I don't know what the name of that place is. If anybody knows, still want to get a master's degree to even a PhD. When I got my master's degree back in the mid 90s, I loved doing the coursework. It was marriage and family, and let's see, marriage family therapy was the name of the degree, but it was marriage, family, individual, and child counseling, I think. So it covered everybody basically. And it was specifically in art therapy. And I was more interested in the art therapy than the family therapy. I thought getting into it, but I ended up getting more into the family therapy kind of end of it. I just loved it. I felt like it was what I was born to do. Like I couldn't get enough of the information. I mean, I read every single assignment like word for word. I probably drove my professors crazy and my colleagues crazy because I was wanting all of us to read everything and talk about it. Like I had that expectation and other people didn't. So when I was in my undergrad, I was more like that, where, stuff was getting assigned and I would just like do kind of the bare minimum of what I could to keep up. And I just wanted to party and hang out. And when I was in graduate school, I was much more structured, organized, and I'd say compulsive, but I just loved it. And for me, with my own PTSD, it's very calming to do busy work, to read or to write. Um, there's something about that I feel a great sense of safety with. So it was just absolutely thrilling to me to have the opportunity to learn and to be in a master's program. I felt very privileged. Did I say that right? Privileged. And I felt like a lot of my peers were kind of spoiled and took it for granted. Like some of them, their parents were obviously paying for their master's degree and they didn't care about it any more than I cared about my bachelor's degree when I was a freshman. I was just there to party. And I mentioned about going to Miami University in Oxford, Ohio. That was at the time, it was like 31% of the student population was a fraternity boy or sorority girl. Like 31% of the student population at Miami University was in the Greek system, which again, at that time, it was 1985 when I first started there in the fall. It was the highest Greek population in the country and in the world. And it was annoying. as a person that had no interest in that. I mean, now as an adult, I can see the attraction and the appeal and the benefits to that. But at the time, I just thought it was stupid. And when the population is so high, 31%, it literally felt like 100%. Like it felt like I was the only person not involved in that. And I had no interest, zero. Um, but I bring that up because it seems that at Idaho, um, University of Idaho, that their Greek population is probably extremely high too. I'm going to guess in the range of 20%. And I think most schools that have a Greek system, that it's much lower, like probably around under 15%. So, I mean, most universities have sororities and fraternities, and there's just not that many people that are involved with them. So, anyway, all that academic geek buffness. I've applied to several doctoral programs over the years. I think the first one I applied for was at the University of Washington, and they weren't accepting applications, but like a Nimrod, I went ahead and applied anyway because I thought, well, just because they're not accepting applications doesn't mean I won't get accepted, but I was ignorant. That's okay. And then I applied to a couple others. I've applied a handful of times over the years. And as you guys might know, right now I have an application in for a doctoral program that I should be finding out shortly whether I was accepted or not. And my guess is that I probably didn't get accepted because I looked it up and only like less than 3% of their applicants get accepted into that department. And that's as rough as it gets. I looked up a bunch of schools, and even like the really, really prestigious Ivy League schools with like the lowest acceptance rates are still at about 5%. To go under 3% is pretty much unheard of. So if I get in, it'll be a miracle. I don't think I'll get in, and that's okay. I'm glad I got my application in, and we shall see. I mean, you just never know where life will take you. And a couple years ago, I would have thought that I would have more likely gotten into a doctoral program than ever starting a YouTube channel. So here we are. I'm 4 months into my YouTube channel and I love it. And I feel like I've got a very receptive audience and I really appreciate that, you guys. Where are we at? We're just at about 45 minutes. Let me read a few more of your comments and then maybe wrap it up and get going with some other stuff. And I missed a couple. Okay. Felicia Bennett says learning goes both ways. Continuing education is vital. Yep, absolutely. And let's see. Justice Seekers, I am thinking the assailant saying about safety could have been part of the sinister plan to put her at ease. Oh, creepy AF. Creepy AF. Then something happened, possible injury that caused him to need to vacate the premises. Ew, Kale, you are so wise. That's probably exactly why he ran past the one that saw him, was because he was in pain and just had to get out of there. That's extremely likely, it sounds like. Arrow Creek in Reno. Thank you, Heather. Oh, you're so smart. See, this is why I love doing this, you guys. So yeah, Arrow Creek was the name of the fancy schmancy guarded community. And if you guys have not seen still shots of that guarded community, I'll try to put one up on the community tab. I've never seen a guarded community like that. Like I say, guarded rather than gated, because the only thing I've ever seen that it reminds me of is Bob Dylan's house back in the 70s in Malibu, California. He had a fortress around his property and guards with machine guns like you'd see at a prison. That's the only thing that I've ever seen that was similar to the guarded community at Arrow Creek. Although I didn't see any actual guards in the photograph. It's just like the main structure at the gate that would normally be, just like a tiny little hut, is like a lavish house, in my opinion. I mean, it's more like a medium house, but it's like a really nice house, and that's just at the gate. And you can't even see any of the properties from that. Like I said, I'll try to put it up in my community tab if you guys want to look for that. Once you reach the master's degree level, all the coursework is focused on your actual field. I'm a scientist and everything was focused on science. I was completely over math and history courses. Right. And it's so exciting to learn the stuff that you're really interested in, as opposed to having to learn a bunch of stuff that you're not interested in. I had to scrub the kitchen floor after hearing Affidavit News yesterday. That sounds like good therapy, productive too. I hate math, but like only biology, not a physics person too. That's why I went into special ed. Oh, special ed is amazing, isn't it? Please remember to hit the like. The Kale says the wrench, the mod. Completely understand. For years I was resentful due to taking courses like music appreciation. LOL, I was so frustrated. And see, it's so funny. Like I remember in high school, I hated history more than anything. And now like I would love to study history in a structured way. Like I would be fascinated with any history of our country or other countries. But when I was required to study it, it bored the crap out of me. Um, looks like a stockade. Kale, are you talking about the fancy schmancy neighborhood there in Reno, Arrowhead? Thanks so much for reminding me the name of it. I'll be burning Google Earth up today. I'll report anything that stands out. Oh, Felicia, are you talking about there in Truckee area, or are you talking about in Idaho, or both? I mean, yeah. Oh, I'm really eager to see what's going on with Kevin Neese's channel, because yeah, that was so exciting that he did the one a couple weeks ago and then did the other one yesterday. And then if anybody screen recorded that third one, please email it to me. I don't know. I can't get over him saying it's okay, I'm going to help you. I know it's chilling, isn't it? It's absolutely chilling going back to the Idaho case. Had to pass first year math, otherwise I wouldn't graduate when I completed my fourth year without it. Had to work my butt off in practice. So you just reminded me, the first program that I applied to for a doctorate degree at University of Washington in Seattle was a statistics program. I'm a total nerd with statistics, but statistics are so fascinating and they are so hard to do as college level coursework. So that was insane that I even applied for that. But one of the things about statistics that I learned about in graduate school that really got me interested is how easy it is to skew a statistical based research, how easy it is to skew any type of research. You have to know who's funding the research. You have to know what objective the researcher has. You know, if the research is done, let's say by a cigarette company in the 70s, the research is going to show that cigarettes are very safe and possibly even good for your health, right? And you know, the same thing can be said for like the alcohol studies that quote unquote prove that one alcoholic drink a day is actually beneficial to your health. Like, you know, is Napa Valley funding that research? That would be really good information to have, because any type of study that you do, you can pretty much prove anything you set out to prove. I mean, really. So let's see a few more of these and then we will wrap up for the morning one. And I'm definitely planning on having an afternoon one, and probably early afternoon, like yesterday, like more like 1 o'clock rather than 2 o'clock. Let's see. Yeah, it is annoying to have to study things that you're not interested in. Absolutely. Um, I think I would run away. Did he have help keeping people in this house? So confused. It is confusing, Lisa. It's really confusing. I have questions like that too. Okay, and Felicia Bennett was talking about the Truckee area. Yeah, the Truckee area is so fascinating with Boca and Prosser and um, the lodge. As you guys know, if you remember from when was speaking about that case every day for months on end, I had the good fortune of going skiing at North Star Ski Resort and staying right on Donner Lake many, many times when I was in graduate school. So it was so eye opening to me to have had that experience of being on site. It is uncomparable. Just the amount of things that you understand and learn, and then like the whole thing with the Donner Pass and the whole culture of the Truckee area, of how lighthearted they are about that horrific cannibalistic scar on the history of our country and humanity. I mean, it's the worst case of cannibalism known. And most people would be horrified by that. But in Truckee, it's almost like what do you call that? Like a war marks or something like that. That was like an old psychiatric term. Um, but you know, where people have their scars as like a badge of honor. You guys probably know what I'm talking about. My brain just isn't coming up with it right now. Anyway, let me go ahead and get through the rest of these and then sign off since my brain's failing me. I thought I had so much caffeine in me that that couldn't happen. And let me read that again. Miss Azir Zaza, Felicia, I had to pass first year math, otherwise I wouldn't graduate when I completed my 4th year without it. Had to work my butt off in practice. Yeah. And some people are really good at math and some people aren't good at math. I was a person that was really good at math until I had children, and that totally changed. Like, I don't know why. Having kids, like the minute I don't remember if it was when I got pregnant or when I had the first baby, but I like couldn't add 2 and 2 practically. It was crazy. Crazy. Um yeah, let's see. He's had to remove his videos. Just got here. I was wondering what if one of the girls had a nanny cam set up because they were having things taken. Well, Storm Dancer, it sounds like there were probably like an Alexa. I don't want her to hear me. And that other one, inside the house, there were cell phones. There were surveillance cameras on the outside of the house. One that was as close as 50 feet that had sound from someone else's home. So I whispered the name of my gadget because on Harsh, he said his, and he said, why don't they have them designed to call emergency services? And mine asked me right away if I needed that. And I was like, Harsh. Like, I wonder how many he set off with saying that in his video. Oh my goodness. So funny. So that's my guess, is that there were Siri and the one that starts with an A, and perhaps video inside the house with, again, remember Xana's father had replaced the lock, it sounds like, on her bedroom door, not necessarily on the house door. I'm not 100% sure that it was the bedroom door rather than the house door, but I'm pretty sure that that's what I've gathered again and again, is that it was her bedroom door that she needed her lock replaced on. But yeah, anyway, gun running to just like old times. Oh, catcher. Are you talking about Reno? Or are you talking about being a mule for uh, weapons? I had not thought about being a mule for weapons. I thought about people in Truckee being mules for substances, running to and from Mexico. Badge of honor. Yeah. Yeah. War heroes. Yeah, I know. I'll figure it out. I'll try to get to it in the later one. If it's not in here, I'm gonna get caught up. I think I'm almost there. Hey, Larissa, good morning. And you said it. Sorry, my phone is being slow. Oh, you're fine. Um, yeah, baby brain is real. McCary Poo, what a funny name. That's cute. Felicia, I'm only good at math when it's in context, like a world problem. I have to know the why to figure it out. That's why I'm great at science. I always know why I'm calculating something. Kale says, have to go. We'll try to be back for afternoon live. Please remember to like and keep Xana's algorithm going. Thank you, Kale. Have a great day. And yes, like I had stated a few minutes ago, I'm going to try to be back on for my afternoon live at about 1 o'clock. So thanks so much for joining me. I'm sorry to sign off right after you hop in, Larissa. Please try to come back, and I'm going to get my brain on. And Larissa says, Justice, have you seen my newest video on my personal true crime story? No. And as soon as right before you said that, right after I said your name, I was thinking, I got to check Larissa's channel and see what she's done the last couple of days. So yeah, you're one of the channels that I constantly am checking to see what's new. And I haven't in a couple of days. This whole thing with the arrest and everything has, I think, sidetracked a lot of us. A couple days ago, I was like, I'm not going to talk about this case anymore. And I'm still just as committed to only speaking of it responsibly, respectfully, like as though, the court order for the gag order that is only applicable to the professionals involved. I feel compelled to respect that as if I were a professional involved, simply because of my background of working with the court, that you just don't want to do anything to mess up anybody's justice. Absolutely. And I would think that most, if not everybody, would agree with that kind of perspective. So yeah, I will check that out. Thanks for bringing it to my attention, Larissa. That and Kevin Neese, top priorities. Goodbye. Have a great morning. Make sure that you take care of yourself. Make yourself number one, because if we're not able to take care of ourselves, if we're not able to prioritize ourselves, we're not going to be able to help the people that we want to help. And for many of us, I know that we are helpers and we love to help our families, our kids, our pets, other people. And you have to put yourself first. So, your nutrition, your hydration, your exercise, your rest, your mental health, physical health, spiritual health is the most important thing, so that you can be well for yourself and be well for others. So, on that, Pixie Knickers says, oh, I want to highlight what Felicia said. Love your channel, Larissa. Yeah, anybody who hasn't checked out Larissa's channel, check her out. She is awesome. And also, what I was saying earlier about At the Scene with Haley V, she's really awesome too. So, and if anybody has her email address, I want to send her an email and apologize for being such a numbskull. Yeah, I think they have the right person, Pixie Knickers. I was going to highlight that one too. And yeah, just being bad with names, it's been a frustration my whole life. So I'm glad that I'm making progress, but still have a ways to go. They have them nailed to the wall. The amount of evidence is amazing. Oh, Jaded Warehouse says, "Dang, I missed it. I'll rewatch." Sorry, Jaded Warehouse. Yeah, I need to get going and do some other stuff, and then I'll be back on hopefully at about 1:00. So peace out, you guys. I appreciate you so much. Sending you love, sending you light. And do you like my little Christmas lights that I put up?